We are so excited for our personalized tour through St. Louis's 150 years of Muslim history.
Muslims began to voluntarily immigrate to the United States in larger numbers, after the Civil War. Most of them who came at that time would have been from what many people know as the Middle East, the countries of Palestine, Jordan, but especially Syria and Lebanon. The majority of Syrians who came were actually Christian, but there were a number of Muslims. And then there were also Muslims coming from Bengal, from Central Asia, Afghanistan, right, from Turkey itself, from Bosnia, from the southeastern Europe.
And so what was the motivation? What was the driving force that drove this immigration?
They came for the reason why millions of immigrants came after the Civil War up until World War I. That was mostly for economic opportunity. There was push and there was pull. In most of the places from which they came, there was some kind of economic displacement. There just weren't enough jobs. And the United States was in need of cheap labor. So in one sense, what happened then is still happening today, right? There's push and pull. People are displaced for one reason or another. People sometimes become refugees and they need a place to land. For example, in the 1990s, thousands of Bosnian refugees came to St. Louis, looking for refuge, looking for a place to establish a community and raise their kids in relative safety and with some degree of economic opportunity. But if you want to know when Muslims first came to St. Louis, the largest population of Muslims before World War II probably came to the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair to work here. So here's a map of the fair. And one of the things that sometimes people forget about the fair is Jerusalem was reproduced at a 1-to-1 scale, the old city of Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
What?
And so you see it right in the center there. The Mosque of Omar, the Dome of the Rock, it was 1-to-1 scale. And they had the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Kotel, or the Wailing Wall. It was all right there. And then you look, Morocco's right next door. My relatives came because of that, because of these fairs, right? And maybe a long-lost relative of yours came, some long-lost cousin.
Yeah.
But I want to show you where actually most of the Muslims from the fair came from.
Okay.
For the 1904 World's Fair, the organizers imported 1,100 people from Philippines. It's the largest single foreign population. And among their number were hundreds of people from southern Philippines, or the island of Mindanao. And this is where Muslims lived. These were called Moros, or Moors, Muslims. They were wildly popular in the fair. They called the Moros semi-civilized. They displayed savages like pygmies at the fair. And then they contrasted them with all of the white culture, which was seen as civilized and industrial and modern. But the Moros and the Muslims in general stood right in between. They were right in the middle. They were
They got an upgrade.
civilized.
Right. I don't know if you know, but I have a song called Barbarian about that exact topic. So that's a very sore spot for me.
If they're civilized, I'd rather stay savage. We them barbarians, beautiful and scaring them, earth-shaking, rattling, be wild out loud again. This nose, decolonize, this hair, decolonize, this skin, decolonize, this body, decolonize, this mind, decolonize.